Hey, Mech Warriors, welcome to Bad Ben's Battletech. I'm Bad Ben, and today we're going to be designing an Aero fighter by hand. This is something I've just recently learned to do, and it's not really all that difficult if you can make a mech. If you understand how a mech is done, this isn't especially different. Obviously, there are differences to a couple of things. But it's pretty straightforward. And yeah, just to let you know, this isn't like a tutorial on how to use aerospace fighters. You need to know how to use aerospace fighters yourself. There's lots of tutorials online on YouTube that will, or you can buy the books. Go buy Total Warfare, learn how aero fighters work, and so on. What you do need if you want to do this is a copy of the tech manual, the Battletech tech manual. You can get that from Catalyst Game Labs. You can get that as a PDF from their store. It's fairly cheap. And yeah, you'll need that to follow along because there's a lot of tables, like the engine table, for example, is quite large, and I can't tell you all of the different, weights and everything for everything. Also, I'm not going to be showing it on the video here. You should go and buy that. I think that that's important. So, getting right into it, this is the spreadsheet that I've made. We have this field here that's going to record what tech base, your weight, thrust, the engine rating, the engine type, your structural integrity, your fuel points, armor type, how many armor points you have, heat sink type, how many heat sinks, and how much heat you sink, therefore, depending on that. And the last one here, external hard points. Here we have the weight. This is going to be the weight of everything that takes weight. It will add up everything here and tell you how much is unused. Here's the equipment table. So you write what is the equipment, how much weight, how much heat, and how much space. Space is extremely easy for these. Everything takes up one slot, but it's worth putting this in here, and those get added up for you here at the bottom. And then this is just allocating different equipment. Where are you going to put all of the different equipment in your fighter? You have 4 different areas. You have the nose, left wing, right wing, and the aft to be able to mount things. A lot of things. This is much different than building a battle mech because a lot of things don't take up any space, like heat sinks, for example, or ammo, and just get put into the fuselage of the plane. So, yeah, we'll start right away. And my plane is going to be called I don't know what my plane it'll be called the Pizza King. This is going to be the Pizza King mech, aerospace fighter. It's inner sphere, tech based, so I'll just write that in. It can either be inner sphere, clan, or mixed. If it's inner sphere, you can own. There are certain rules for, the armor that you can use, the different equipment that you're allowed to use, so on and so forth. I'm going to be making an inner sphere aerospace fighter. It's going to be 65 tons. You can choose anything, I believe, between 5 and 100 tons for this. It's a lot, just like a mech. Mechs can go between 20 and 100 tons. Aerospace fighters can go between 5 and 100 tons, I believe. This, you just choose what weight you want. There's advantages to having really huge 100-tonners, and there's advantage to having tiny little fast fighters and so on. So you just choose. I've decided to make this a 65-tonner. And that weight we can put in here. Free weight. We have 65 tons of weight. And already it will tell us we have 65 tons unused weight. So the next thing we can move on to is thrust. And your thrust is going much like a mech. It's the movement speed, and it's going to have two values, like a mech, the walking and the running. It's going to have safe thrust and maximum thrust, and it's calculated the exact same way as a mech's walking and running speed, and that is simply by taking the safe thrust and multiplying by 1.5. So you'll get the same values if you have a walking speed of, and it's rounded up, so if you have a walking speed of 1, your running speed is going to be 2. If you have a running speed of 2, a walking speed of 2, your running speed will be 3, and then 3 and 5, 4, 6, 5, 7, so on and so forth. The safe thrust for this plane is going to be 7 for the safe thrust, and 11 as its maximum thrust. Again, you need to understand what that means for yourself. You got to go and learn about what that means. Total Warfare can tell you all about safe and maximum thrust. From here, our engine rating is automatically calculated. Not by the spreadsheet, sorry, but whatever your thrust is going to determine what your engine rating is in much the same way a mech's is, but not exactly the same way. So if it were a mech, I would simply take its safe thrust or walking speed, multiply it by its tonnage, and that will give me the engine rating. That's not the case with an aerospace fighter. With an aerospace fighter, you're going to subtract 2 from your safe thrust before you multiply it by your tonnage. So my safe thrust being 7, subtract 2 gives me 5. So I take 5 times 65, and that will give me my engine rating of 325. So my engine rating is going to be 325. Here's where you need to come on to the engine, the master engine table. It's the same table that mechs use. Exactly the same engines. They have the exact same weight. So a 325 rated engine is going to weigh the same in a battle mech as it is in an aero fighter. And I should have had the engine rating table open, but of course I don't. So just bear with me for a moment while I go and see how much my engine weighs. No. Before you can figure out what your engine weighs, you need to figure out what type of engine it is going to be. And it's going to be the exact same as battle mechs. It has you have compact, you have standard, you have light, and extra light. My goodness, where is this table? I thought I knew where the table was. Here we go. I'm getting close. Master engine table. So for all aerospace fighters, must use a fusion engine. A conventional fighter, not an aerospace fighter, may also use an internal combustion engine, I believe. But if it's an aerospace fighter, it's going to be a fusion engine. And from that, you can choose compact, standard, light, or extra light, according to the rules in the tech manual. So I come over, I want to use an extra light engine, and here's one of the first things that is different between aerospace and aerospace fighters and a mech. In a mech, an extra light engine is going to take up extra slots in your mech, in the side torsos. If it's an inner sphere mech, it's going to take up 3 in each side torso. If it's clan, it's going to take up 2 in each side torso. In aerospace fighters, it takes up no extra room at all. So there is actually no difference between a clan extra light or an inner sphere extra light engine on an aerospace fighter. So now that I know that I have a 325 rated XL engine, I simply look on my table to see how much that weighs, and the engine is going to weigh 12 tons. All right. So that's the engine all taken care of. I know that's all correct. If you have 711 speed, it will be a 325 rated engine. If it's a 325 rated XL engine, it will be 12 tons. Structural integrity. Structural integrity is fairly easy to calculate, and it's not something you can decide for yourself. It will be set. What you're going to do is there will be 2 numbers that you can use for your structural integrity, and it will be the higher of those 2 numbers that you will use. So the first number that it could be is your weight divided by 10. In this case, rounded down. In this case, I'm a 65-ton mech, so it's 65 divided by 10 is 6.5. Rounded down gives me a structural integrity of 6. Now, the second number I can use is my safe thrust. If my safe thrust is higher than the weight divided by 10 rounded down, then you will use the safe thrust. It would be different if I had, for example, a 95-ton aerospace fighter. Then it would be 95 divided by 10 rounded down, give me a 9. And in that case, my structural integrity would be 9. In this case, the higher of the 2 number is my safe thrust. So my structural integrity is 7. It's not 711, it's 7. Okay, fuel points. This is one of the strange things about aerospace fighters, and it sort of makes sense, and it also kind of sort of doesn't make total sense. I'll get into all that. So the first question is, okay, we're using the exact same engine as a mech. A mech does not need to allocate any extra tonnage or space to fuel. Why does an aerospace fighter need to allocate space to fuel? And the reason for this is because in a mech, the only thing the fusion engine is doing is creating electricity. It's not creating thrust in the same way as it is in an aerospace fighter. An aerospace fighter actually, because it operates in space, needs to eject material to be able to move. All right? So that's what the fuel in an aerospace fighter is for. It's to eject material to thrust it forward. If it's operating in atmosphere, I don't know the exact, method it works. If it's operating in atmosphere, I can see that it might not need to use fuel, or at least not as much fuel. If it has air intakes like a jet and can then use the heat from the fusion generator simply to superheat the air and vent it out as exhaust, like a jet engine does. A jet engine does actually use fuel, though, to do that. Anyways, so that's the reason that an aerospace fighter, that's the idea of why an aerospace fighter needs to use fuel. According to Total Warfare rules, we don't need to track fuel in a normal game of Battletech. Fuel points are not tracked. You could track them. You have all of the numbers. All right. We have all of the numbers to be able to track fuel points, but it's not actually done in Total Warfare. It would be used for larger campaigns, I suppose. If you're tracking from day to day, sending out sorties, I don't know. I'm not going to get into the whole, the details of it. But also, the tech manual tells you explicitly there's no minimum required fuel on an aerospace fighter. No minimum amount. It does say all aerospace fighters must carry a fuel tank, but then specifically says there's no minimum amount. Now, that's kind of strange because if you must carry a fuel tank and it can be carried in half-ton amounts, then in my mind, the minimum fuel tank you can put on an aerospace fighter should be half a ton. So I think it's just kind of a wording thing. I think that they do explicitly say all aerospace fighters must attribute some space to fuel, even if you're not tracking it within the game. And therefore, the minimum would have to be a half a ton. The way that fuel works is you decide how many tons, minimum of 0.5, I suppose, tons, and that will give you a certain amount of fuel points. Now, for every ton of fuel you carry on an aerospace fighter, it gives you 80 points, 80 fuel points. Now, your thrust theoretically uses up those fuel points during a game. But, as I said, Total Warfare specifically says you don't need to track your fuel points throughout the game. You could, but you don't have to. So if I'm going to put 3 tons of fuel on my aerospace fighter. The only thing you need to track is the weight. It takes up no space. This is one of the things that simply gets put into the fuselage. And so since I have 3 tons, that gives me 240 points of fuel to expend during a game, even though I don't actually have to track it. You could put 0.5 tons and have therefore 40 fuel points. And since you don't have to track it, that's going to be better in a game of Battletech because that's more weight that you can attribute to armor or weapons or heat sinks or something like that. So, yeah, it's kind of like the ideal aerospace fighter would have 0.5 tons of fuel in a normal game of Battletech. That's going to make it, I think, essentially useless in a campaign operation if you're going to use it for something like that. So since this might get used for a campaign and I will need to possibly track its fuel, I'll give it 3 tons. I'll also do that because, I don't know, just headcanon, this if you if you actually do the math, okay, if I do the math for tracking fuel points in a game, we know that one turn on a ground map, we're not talking about aerospace, so this is aerospace fighters engaging mechs on the ground. Each turn takes 10 seconds, right? If I were to spend 7 points of thrust every turn, within 10 turns, that meaning 100 seconds, less than 2 minutes, I have used up 70 fuel points, right? This would give me, what is 200, 240 divided by 7, gives me 34 turns that I could fly this plane. That's only 340 seconds on, in game. And so this aerospace fighter can actually theoretically fly for 5.5 minutes, 5.6 minutes before it runs out of fuel. If we were to track the fuel points like this, which I think is a little silly. Although I think where we get around this is saying, okay, well, in atmosphere, it can simply eject air that it takes in. So it doesn't actually use fuel in atmosphere. And in space, you're going to be using a lot less fuel since you don't need to constantly burn your engines. You can simply, fire them for a few seconds, and you're going to coast to wherever you want to go. So all of my calculations, that, it only gives you 5.5 minutes time of flight probably isn't right. I just thought that was a funny thing to think about. So that was far too much time spent on thinking about fuel. Most likely if you're only building an aerospace fighter to use in games against battle mechs, this isn't ever going to come up. So, moving on to armor type. And this is a lot like battle mechs. You have standard armor, you have inner sphere ferrofibrous, you have clan ferrofibrous, but it's not called ferrofibrous, it's called ferroaluminum, right? You have light ferrofibrous, ferrofibrous clan, and heavy ferrofibrous. The only ones available to the clan are going to be the clan ferro. Sorry, I said ferrofibrous again. Ferroaluminum. It's. Sorry, guys. Let me get the proper table and tell you exactly what it all is. You have standard armor, light ferroaluminum, inner sphere ferroaluminum, clan ferroaluminum, and heavy ferroaluminum. The only ones the clans can use are the standard and clan ferroaluminum. The inner sphere can use light ferroaluminum, inner sphere ferroaluminum, or heavy ferroaluminum. For this fighter, I am using IS ferroaluminum. All right, IS ferroaluminum. And you can find this on the Aerospace armor points per ton table. on page 192 of the tech manual. And here, this will tell you how many points you're going to be getting, how many points you can have, and so on and so forth. But before I get to that, we need to take care of the space that the inner sphere ferroaluminum will take. And you can find this on the table, same table at the bottom, Aerospace Armor Weapon Space table, fighters only. And it tells me that inner sphere ferroaluminum will take up 2 slots, 1 in each wing. And so I can come over here to my equipment space, okay, and I have to write in ferroaluminum, okay. So in each wing now we only have 4 slots for weapons, but believe me, this is more than enough. You could actually easily put on heavy ferroaluminum and have more than enough space for all of your weapons that you want to put on. So then we have to decide armor points and armor weight. How much armor are we going to put on? How much does that weigh? Right? How many armor points do we get? And aerospace fighters can get absurd amounts of armor in comparison to a mech. The calculation is your tonnage times 8 is the amount of points you are allowed to have as an aerospace fighter. That's not the same as mechs. They have a different calculation. It's set for each tonnage, what's your maximum armor level. And it is for this, but it's a lot higher. So 65 times 8 gives me a maximum amount of armor points of 520, right? So this is the most armor I could put on my fighter. Figuring out how much this is going to weigh is dependent on what kind of armor you chose. So in this case, I chose inner sphere ferroaluminum. And on the aerospace armor points per ton table on page 192, it will tell you how many points you get per ton. And this is one of the things I hate for some reason about the building process. For whatever reason, inner sphere ferroaluminum gives you 17.92 tons per points per ton. I hate that that's not just a nice round number. Why does it have to be 0.92? Like, make it 18, make it 17 even, or 17.5. 17.92 is such a absurd number. Anyways, it doesn't matter. It all works out. Normal standard armor is a nice round number, 16 points. Clan ferroaluminum is a nice round number, 24 points. That's very nice. But inner sphere ferroaluminum is 17.92 points. So to find out how much weight, okay, this would take up 500. If I put up 520 points, simply divide that by 17.92, right? That's the points per ton of inner sphere ferroaluminum, and that means I could put 29 tons of armor on this. I could put even more my maximum was 520. If I put standard armor on the fighter, I would divide it by 16, and that would give me, I could put 32.5 tons of armor on the fighter for a ridiculous 520 points. I'm not going to do that. that's way too much armor, in my opinion. That takes up way too much space. You're not going to have enough left over for weapons and anything like that. I'm going with fairly conservative amount of armor. I'm going to put on 11 tons of armor. And then I can simply calculate my armor points from this. I know I have IS ferro aluminum, which gives me 17.92 points per ton. I have 11 tons, so all I need to do is 11 times 17.92, and that gives me 197.12, and of course we need to round down, so I will have 197 points of armor. Right? If I wasn't using IS ferro aluminum, if I was using standard armor, I would simply multiply 11 by 16 because that's the amount of points per ton you get. If I was using clan ferrofibrous armor, ferro aluminum fiber, it would be 11 times 24, and that would be how many points I would get. So yeah, it's fairly straightforward. It works pretty much exactly the same as putting armor on a mech. It just lets you put a lot of armor on a mech on your fighter if you want to. Yeah, so that's armor taken care of. We have heatsink type, and it's going to be the same, exact same heat sinks that mechs use. So you have inner sphere double, clan double, or single, right? Those are the options. This doesn't actually make any difference. It doesn't make any difference whether it's clan or inner sphere, because the only difference between clan and inner sphere heatsink, double heatsink, is that the clan takes up 2 spaces, whereas the inner sphere double heatsink take up 3 spaces. We don't track the space on an Aerofighter that the heatsinks take, so whether it's inner sphere double or clan double honestly makes no difference. Every aerospace fighter engine comes with built-in heat sinks in the same way that mechs engines come in with built-in heat sinks, but it's far easier. With mechs, there's a calculation to find out how many of the heat sinks are going to be weight-free. In an aerospace fighter, that number is simply 10, always 10, right? You get for free. You can put more. You don't have to record the space that they take, but you do need to record the weight that those would take. And every heatsink, whether it's a single heatsink or a double, inner sphere double or a clan double, always weighs 1 ton. Right? This is something you probably want to leave till after you know exactly what kind of weapons you're going to be putting on this thing and how much heat you're going to be building up every turn. Okay? So in this field, heat sunk, simply I have 10 double heat sinks, meaning I get 20 heat sunk every turn. Yeah. The last field here, external hard points. These are the hard points that you can put bombs onto. And bombs on aerospace fighters have their own special rules. You don't have to take bombs. You can take bombs. It's going to affect your thrust and so on and so forth, or it's going to affect your velocity every turn and blah, blah, blah. But this isn't a tutorial on how aerospace is done. This is simply how to build the thing. And to figure out how many external hard points you have, it's a super easy calculation. You simply take your tonnage, divide it by 5, and that's your number. So in my case, I have 65-ton fighter divided by 5. That will equal 13. And 13 is the amount of external hard points you have on your mech. I keep saying mech. fighter. Okay. Something I don't have here. I should change that. Cockpit. Well, okay, no, I'm not going to add that. I was going to add cockpit type here, right? Cockpit type. So that you could choose what kind of cockpit you're going to put into your aerospace fighter. I was going to do that because in the MegaMech program, it gives you that option. You can put in a small cockpit in the MegaMech program. In the Battletech tech manual that explains how to build an aerospace fighter, it does not give you that option. All right. And I don't know off the top of my head what is going to be the effect of putting a small cockpit into aerospace fighter. And since I'm doing this kind of according to the tech manual, I'm not going to put in the option for a small cockpit. I don't think I would want a small cockpit because it most likely gives you an extra modifier to your pilot. What are they called? Control rolls, right? So it's probably going to be a +2 to any roll that you have to do to control your airplane if you have a small cockpit. Since we're not doing that, every single cockpit in every single aerospace fighter weighs 3 tons. It doesn't take up any space in the equipment space here. It's just in the nose of the plane where it usually is. All right. So yeah, cockpit, it just weighs 3 tons. Put that in. That's all we really need to do. Now we come to sorry. We could have already done the armor when we figured out how many armor points I have. Right, you have to allocate these to the different things, and this table here shows, so it tells you how many you have and how many are unused. I still have 197 unused. I can't remember exactly. I have made this fighter before just to check it all works. And I can't remember how I exactly did this, but I think it was something like 59 on the nose, 50 on each wing. I can't say that for sure. I was going to say, I believe that the left wing and the right wing need to have the same amount of armor. It needs to be even, but I actually believe that's possibly not true. If I think about it, I can't really remember it telling me that in the book. It does definitely tell you that your equipment needs to be evened out between your left wing and your right wing. But the armor, I believe it doesn't. So yeah, you can just do that. I put 59 in the nose, 50 in each wing, and it already tells me I have 38 unused. So if I put 38 in the back, I will have unused. That's my total. That's my armor for the mech. Now, as far as equipment goes, equipment is on the equipment tables are on page 341 in the tech manual. And it's the same equipment that mechs use. You put all the same weapons, all the same stuff. Not everything you can put on a mech, you can put on an aerospace fighter. And also probably the other way around. There's probably some aerospace fighter exclusive weapons. I'm not exactly sure about that. But simply go down to the page 341, and I'm going to be on the inner sphere heavy weapons and equipment table. If it's clan mech, obviously you're going to be going on to the clan heavy weapons and equipment table. And I am going to be putting on one Gauss rifle. one Gauss rifle. The weight of the Gauss rifle is the same whether you put it on a mech or an aerospace fighter, and it's going to be 15. It's 15 tons. The heat is 1 for a Gauss rifle, and the space. Now this is where it's different. Every single weapon that you can put on an aerospace fighter takes up 1 slot of space. That's all. Even a Gauss rifle, even Ultra AC-20, anything you can think of, even a small laser takes up 1 slot of space. So that's why you have lots of space to put equipment here. Even if you were to use heavy ferroaluminum, you're only taking up 4, meaning you'd still have 16 places to put weapons. Gauss rifles obviously need Gauss ammo, right? The weight for that is simply 1 ton. It has no heat and takes up no space. You don't need to put the Gauss ammo here in any of these firing arcs. It goes into the fuselage. And it seems to me like the fuselage has essentially endless space. You can put as many heat sinks and ammo and all that stuff as you want inside, and it never fills up. Okay, the next thing I am putting on here are, LRM needs to be capitalized. Is going to be 2 LRM 15s. Okay. If I come over on my table here, where are the missiles? Next table down. Oh, where am I looking? LRM, no. LRM 15, here it is. Tonnage is 7 tons. So they each weigh 7. Heat for an LRM 15 is going to be 5. This is all on the Inner Sphere Heavy Weapons and Equipment table. And the space on the table, you have this place that says space, and then it has M, P, CV, SV, F, SC, and DS, right? And we are looking in the F column for fighter. And as you can see, if you're looking at it, every single thing takes up a single slot, right? So both of these are going to take up 1 slot. I haven't done this, but this field will equal that field. There. So as I put stuff in here, then my equipment weight will change there. It's a good idea. I'm going to put 2 tons of LRM ammo. Everything should be right aligned. I like it right aligned. Which each weigh 1 ton, have no heat, and take up no space. 30, meaning I have 5 tons? 4 tons, left of unused space, just as I thought. And I'm going to put a medium pulse laser. That was written badly. Medium pulse laser. And I'm going to put another medium pulse laser. They each have a weight of 2. That's my weight taken up. See, unused space, 0. Where is, sorry, medium pulse lasers heat is 4. 4, 4. And they each take up 1 slot of space. And now I can go here and look in my heat column, and I'm at 19, and I have 20 heat sunk per turn. So that's going to be fine, right? Weight is exactly right here. The only thing I need to do is actually put in my different weapons. Now, like I said before, the left and right wings must be the same, right? The nose and the aft don't need to be the same, but the wings do need to be the same. So I'm going to put the Gauss rifle in. Oh, I didn't want that. Whoops. I'll just type Gauss rifle in the nose. In the left wing, I will have an LRM 15 and a medium P laser. And I want the exact same thing in the other wing. And that's the only, so I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? And look how much extra space I still have. Even with all these great weapons, great ferroaluminum, I could put still tons of weapons on as far as space goes. I can't because I don't have, if I didn't use that Gauss rifle that weighs 15 tons, you could put like a whole whack of lasers on here or whatever, you know. There's really a lot of space on your Aerofighter. And with that, we have we have all the information that we need done. And from here, what you would do if you have the tech manual, in the back of the tech manual, you have your Aerospace fighter record sheet, and what you can do is print this out, right, and fill it out. It's tell you the truth, I don't know what kind of oh, that's just the name, right? Your type, it's going to be, this is the Pizza King. It's fairly self-explanatory. Safe thrust, right? That would be 7. My max thrust is 11. Tonnage 65 tons. It's an inner sphere. Here I put my weapons: Gauss rifle, LRM, medium pulse lasers. I write in here. You put the location, which wing they're on, right? How much heat they do, and then blah, 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 blah. Fill all that out. Here, external stores bombs. It's strangely, I guess you would have to just cross out. So yeah, no, I have 13. So here's 5, 10, and 13, and I would simply cross out what's, the leftover ones, like that. When it comes to your armor, you're going to have to black out every armor point that is above what we have. So in each wing we have 50, so I would have to black out all but 50 of these and all but 50 of these, and however much I have on the aft and however much I have on the nose. Right? That's how that works. Heat, I have 10 heat sinks, but they're double sinks, so they would sink 20, right? That's all self-explanatory. And that's pretty much all the information that you need to put on. Structural integrity also, right? I have 7 structural integrity, so then I would write a 7 in here, black out everything except for 7 of these little dots, and be on my way. Right? Then it's pretty much ready to use. Also here, black out heat sinks. You can say you have single, you have double, right? That's how you fill out one of these sheets by hand if you want to do it. The other way, which is easier and neater and cleaner, you will get a cleaner, nicely printed out record sheet, is if you go and open MegaMech, right, and put in all of your information that you have on your Aerofighter, put it into MegaMech. This will, first of all, tell you if you've done your correct calculations correctly. Right? It's going to tell you if that's going to be a valid unit or that's an invalid unit, which is very helpful. And then you can export that to a PDF. And it gives you a really nice, beautiful PDF with all the information that you have. I think I have, here it is. Here's MegaMech, right? This, I need to name it the Pizza King, right? Model, the PZK-8, because most pizzas have 8 slices, right? Inner sphere, standard, tonnage. This structural integrity is going to be calculated for you automatically, right? You can say whether it's going to be aerospace or conventional. Engine type. Here is where MegaMech will allow you to put in a small cockpit. The tech manual does not allow you to put in a small cockpit. We have type, double heat sinks. It knows that they're inner sphere double heat sinks, but actually that doesn't matter. It gives you 10 automatically. You can't have less than 10. You can put more than 10. But I have 10, which means I can sink 20 heat. Down here at the bottom it says heat is 19 out of 20. That's actually not even ideal. I would rather go above my heat limit a little bit, but since I can only, you can only have a minimum of 10 heat sinks, that's fine. Here is where you're going to put in how much fuel, right? And that automatically calculates how many fuel points you get. Here you check out your ferroaluminum, how much armor tonnage. I didn't put in the armor exactly the same way. What did I do here? Oh, I changed that. I didn't do it in exactly the same way. I think in the nose I put 59, 50, 50, 38. And you can just change that, right? You can 59, 50, 50, and 38. So that reflects my fighter the way that I allocated the armor. And that's all you need. That's all you have all the information to fill this out already. You need to add your equipment, right? Medium pulse lasers, LRM-15, Gauss rifle, and you also have to add the ammo, right? It does take up tonnage. You need to do that. Assigning criticals, it's extremely easy. I'll show you. as you can see, I don't need to assign any of the ammo. I don't need to assign any of the heat sinks. Even if I had more heat sinks, I wouldn't have to assign them. All of the ammo goes into the fuselage. Weapons, you can see I have 4 open slots in each wing, whereas I have 5 in the nose and the aft. That's because I'm using ferroaluminum. If I were to use standard, it takes up no space, and I have 5 free slots in each wing. I am going to be using ferroaluminum, however. Yes, and as I said, you're going to need to put right wing and left wing are going to have to be the same. If I didn't, it's going to tell me it's invalid there, right? Invalid because I don't. Well, it's invalid for a couple reasons, because the beam pulse laser isn't allocated. But if I allocated it to the nose, it's not valid. No, left and right side weapon loads do not match. So simply put this one over here. They match. Validate unit, right? And that's all you need to do. You have fluff. You get a preview. Then come out here, export to PDF, current unit. Where do I want to put it? I want to put it in, record sheets. I'll just put it in custom mechs. I've made a whole bunch, right? This is called the Pizza King. So where is it? Record sheets, custom mechs. And, blank strategy. Did I put it in here? Where'd it go? Did I lose the... I'll just put it here, whatever. Why didn't I just put it in here? Oh, it's not in there. Here it is, Pizza King. And here is my nice finished record sheet for the Pizza King Aerospace fighter, right? Ready to be used in a game, fully legal, fully valid. Yeah, and I suppose that brings us to the end of this video. I'm going to take this spreadsheet here and I'm going to put it on Google Drive and put a link to it in the description so that you can download it for yourself. It won't be this one, it'll be the empty template, right? And all of these fields will calculate your different stuff for you, right? There's a very few calculations, right? It's going to calculate your unused and your totals down here, and total here and unused here. So don't delete these fields if you're using this, right? They have calculations in here. So yeah, I hope you enjoy the video on how to build an aerospace fighter. I hope you like my Pizza King aerospace fighter. Maybe I'll use it in the game sometime, tell you how it goes. I gotta say, I don't actually use aerospace fighters very often, but I do like building stuff, and so I wanted to make one about building. So anyways, yeah, thanks for watching, guys. I hope to see you next time in whatever video I'm making. Yeah, thanks very much, and see you later.